Hello, I'm Jamila Musayeva, an international etiquette consultant, author of etiquette books and pre-recorded online etiquette courses. In today's video, I'm going to be analyzing events, images, occurrences that I happen to come across on my social media or my followers sent to me to analyze certain things from an etiquette standpoint. So let's get started with analyzing if things went right, wrong, or what could be done differently. So the very first video actually was sent by one of my followers, and she asked me what do I think of Anna Wintour. And before I get to analyze things from an etiquette point of view, I want to just make a disclaimer that I'm in no way analyzing the personality, the character, who she is, what she stands by. So we're just analyzing, so to speak, a thing in isolation to understand it from an etiquette standpoint of view, particularly in this case with Anna Wintour walking out in Paris at Dior show. So she is walking from a show, as I understand, dressed very nicely. In my opinion, I think she has a very unique style that it's her, despite of fashion, changing all the time. She has her own staple look, so to speak. It's very vibrant, it's very colorful. It's not necessarily something I feel comfortable wearing, but I think she has found her unique way of dressing. But here, the most important part of thing that we're going to analyze in this is not what she's wearing, her fashion choices, but rather how she is carrying herself. So in this case, from an etiquette standpoint, it's deportment, how she is walking. Pay attention to her posture. She's slouching. We see that her shoulders are kind of falling forward. She feels like she's not secure because we see that she's looking down the whole time. She touches her hair, and then we see how she's almost about to slip and fall, and then she readjusts her feet and keeps on walking. Understand, I think it's a cobbled floor, so it's very difficult to walk on heels, but she has block heels. So I think the issue here is not necessarily in the kind of shoes that she's wearing, but overall in her posture and in the way she is carrying the clothes or carrying herself. One would imagine that she should have all the confidence in the world because of her position, of who she is, and how much power, so to speak, she has in the fashion world. But with the way that she's carrying herself, it doesn't look like she feels comfortable or confident. So this goes to illustrate once and again that it's not the brands that you're wearing, the expensive clothes that you're wearing, it's not who you are, that whatever you're wearing, but it's how you're wearing, how you're carrying yourself. You might be dressed in the cheapest clothes, and you might not have the power that she has, but it's the way you present yourself to the world that really matters. It should be you carrying the clothes and not the other way around. The next episode was actually again sent by one of my followers about Meghan Markle's show, Meghan with Love Meghan. And there's an episode where she mentions that her husband Harry actually salts his food prior to even tasting it.
Here's my thing with making egg dishes. You can't taste it to tell if it's too salty until after it's cooked. I never know how to season it, so it always comes out too salty or not salty enough. And it's a big surprise. How did you season this so perfectly?
Well, I have a family, a husband, who no matter what meal is put in front of him, before he tastes it, puts salt on. So I try to undersalt.
I love knowing that your husband likes it salty.
This actually came as a surprise to me because one of the biggest etiquette rules when it comes to table manners and just, being good at the formal dinner table is never seasoning your food prior to tasting it. And adding too much salt is usually frowned upon because people that have this exquisite taste should not be seasoning their food too much, not to overpower the food with the salt or pepper, but in this case, salt. I actually was surprised to hear that. There was actually, I think this story, I think it was Henry Ford, if I might be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, but the idea that he was having dinner with someone and someone salted their food prior to tasting it, and he made the conclusion that the person hurried up to conclusions prior to analyzing the situation, that this person perhaps was too judgmental or too quick to take an action prior to making a proper analysis. So in etiquette, the rule is that you never season your food prior to tasting it and you never over season it, but this came as a surprise to me. I don't know if Harry intentionally breaks the rule or he was never actually told not to do so, which came as a surprise to me, but do let me know what you thought about it. This third video was actually from a recent event. Donald Trump was in Saudi Arabia, and as a part of hospitality, he was offered a Saudi coffee in this little cup. It's a Saudi kahwa, And it's usually given to any guest who arrives in a hotel or at a business meeting, or you go to someone's home. It's a welcoming drink, something that everyone gives out, and as a part of hospitality, saying you're welcome. Here you are, you've come from a long road, have a cup of Saudi coffee. And you see that he doesn't take a sip. Instead, he just continuously holds the cup in his hand. I don't know whether he just didn't want to risk and try something new if he hadn't had it, or maybe he was, cautious about taking a sip of something he doesn't know. I don't know what the issue was, but as a part of diplomatic protocol and paying respect to the host who is having you over in their country, I think he had to take at least one sip of that, or at least make an illusion like he's taking a sip without actually drinking it, because refusing to have a cup of kahwa or refusing to take a sip of kahwa can be taken as an insult. So when in Rome, do like Romans and make sure that you abide by the rules of the host. So in this case, Saudis were the host and Donald Trump was the guest. So if you ever found yourself in Saudi, never refuse a cup of Saudi kahwa. In the next video, I actually came across myself on social media. That was Bradley Cooper and George Clooney doing a really nice smooth dance to Smooth Operator. Like the song itself, they're quite both smooth in my opinion. I find them very stylish. They have aged like fine wine. I find them really handsome, both. I think they remind me a lot of men of the, early 20th century, very gentlemanish. They have this vibe or aura around them, very charming one. But I thought that this could be something people would raise as to what they're wearing, in particular the way their clothes looks, and that's they're both in very nice suits. I'm sure they're very expensive, but both are super wrinkled. And I remember sharing a picture from the summer of this red silk dress that I wore, and I was in that dress the whole day, and because it's made of silk, of this really fine silk, it gets wrinkled very quickly, but it's perhaps one of the best materials to wear in the summertime. But there's something about these materials that are so fine that they get so wrinkled that you can't really do anything about it. And I remember someone wrote a comment that, you could have done it better, you could have ironed it better. And there's no way you can iron a silk dress to the point that it's not going to get wrinkled in any way. Once you wear it out, you sit down, you stand up, it's completely wrinkled. This goes to point out in this particular video that they're both dressed in this really fine suits that get wrinkled very, very easily, and that's a natural process of wearing them, what happens after wearing them. For me, this part, I think, proves the point that you have to understand where something is acceptable and not. With the case of their suits and my dress, the material is prone to wrinkles, so it's part of just naturally wearing them out. So style, again, is not about perfection, but it's really just how you wear it and how you feel in the clothes that you're wearing. So in the next episode, we see Johnny Depp hanging a handkerchief to a woman who is crying. And I think this is rather an old video, but I came across the video quite recently. I don't know how it appeared on my feed, but I do remember that I was doing an etiquette review for my Patreon Etiquette movie club on the movie called The Intern, which is one of my favorite movies, starring Robert De Niro and Anne Hathaway. And there, Robert De Niro's character, Ben Whittaker, explains to a young colleague of his, an intern, he shows his wardrobe and he's showing handkerchief and explaining that this is, a vestige article in the wardrobe of gentlemen these days, and a gentleman must carry one not for himself, but in case a woman needs a handkerchief. And that scene actually stuck with me for so many years, and I always bring it up in all my etiquette courses about wardrobe and manners, that handkerchief is one of those old school, so to speak, articles of clothes that reminds me of how gentlemen were gentle with women. And you can see how Johnny Depp takes out this handkerchief from his suit and hands it to a woman because she's in need of one. I personally really love when men carry a handkerchief, but it's, again, nothing that should be, no one is obliged to carry one, but I think if you have one, it makes you a little bit extra special. The next event, we see that the wife of Emir of Qatar, so Sheikha Jawahir, she is meeting Elon Musk, and Qatar is a Muslim country. She's the wife of Emir of Qatar, but at the same time, she's very, very modern, very much a forward thinker. And you see here how she confidently extends her hand for a handshake with Elon Musk. And he actually was very careful to wait out for her to extend her hand for a handshake. I don't know if he was instructed to wait out or if he just knows the ways. I don't know. I'm not judging the personality of Elon Musk in general, but from this episode, he was waiting out and she extends her hand for a handshake. First, she meets him with a very warm handshake, and she even puts her hand around his elbow, sort of patting it in a very, I want to say, friendly, amicable, in a way maternal way, showing a very genuine warmth and respect while greeting him. And then if you watch the video later on to see all the other guests, you'll see how she has greeted every single male guest that arrived with a handshake. Generally, this is not a rather common in most Muslim countries, because some women would refrain from handshaking a man because of religious reasons. If a man is not a family member, if a man is not a brother, father. But in this case, as we see more and more representative of Muslim world, like Queen Rania of Jordan, Sheikha Jawair, or Sheikha Mozza, how they are very open in terms of extending their hand for a handshake while greeting foreign guests. So I think this is something that is changing a lot in the Muslim world, and I actually love seeing this change. And the last point to analyze for today's video is Tom Cruise answering a question to an interviewer. Meanwhile, while he's answering to his questions, the interviewer somehow sprays water on him.
No, why would you do that? Why would you do that? Come here. Come here. Why would you do that? No, it's okay. No, wait a second. What's so funny about that?
And I loved the way Tom Cruise handled this rather provocative action by the interviewer. You could see how he kept on reiterating the same question over and over again without changing his emotional response. So he pulled him closer with his hand and said, "Why would you do that?" And he kept on asking that question, I think 3-4 times throughout the video. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? And he has locked his eyes with the interviewer and kept asking the same question over and over again. I really love how he exhibited this grace under so much pressure and aggression that was coming from the interviewer. I think this goes to demonstrate so well how one can show grace even when they're being provoked. And that doesn't mean that you have to show your weakness or in a way, ignore the ones that have openly shown you aggression. You have to face people that are being aggressive and hateful towards you, but at the same time not sink into their level of aggression. He could have punched him, he could have hit him, with Tom Cruise being very strong. I'm sure he could have done that, but instead he opted to just look him in the eye and ask, "Why would you do that?" And he would not stop asking the same question over and over again until he actually made the interviewer feel uncomfortable. And he said, "You know what? You're a jerk." So he was very good about the way he handled this issue. And I think we can take a good example from Tom Cruise as to how one can handle a situation when one is being provoked. I actually mentioned this in one of my videos as to when someone is being very intrusive in their questions with an intention to hurt you, with an intention to provoke you, you have to look them in the eye and say, "Why would you ask that?" Or, "Why are you saying this? What is your intention?" That makes them now question what they've said. They're either not going to ask that again, or they'll have to explain themselves to you, which now puts them in a position that is lower than you, because the chairs are now turned. You are now in power and you are the one asking questions. I hope that you enjoyed this episode review, so to speak. If you did, give the thumbs up and do let me know down in the comment section below if you like this kind of analysis, and if you have more social media posts or videos that you see, please feel free to send them to my Instagram. You can follow my Instagram, or you can send them to my email, info@musayeva.com, and we love with my team storing those videos for reviews and for courses and for in-person classes where I use this material to explain things happening in life from an etiquette standpoint. Thank you so much, and if you've made until this point of the video, you can get my books on my website. I wanted to make this last announcement. They're available for international shipment, and you can even get a signed copy for your loved one, maybe for their birthday or as a gift in general. You can also join my pre-recorded online etiquette courses. You can also join my Patreon Etiquette Movie Club, where every month I do this kind of an etiquette analysis for different kind of movies. The Intern was one of them. I've done over 40 different movie analysis. And you can actually join my waiting list or send your email to info@jamilamusayeva.com, where I usually announce live webinars that I'm hosting every other week. And you can join them either live, or you can get tickets to watch them recorded, and we'll send you a special link so that you can get to see those live webinars on different topics around etiquette. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!